As a bouncer, Zorax was keeping watch at the entrance of the Night Mist Saloon when two strange creatures burst in. They had patches of fur covering their heads and immediately gave themselves away as newcomers by the way they looked around, in obvious confusion. Zorax had a sixth sense that identified troublemakers, and right now this sense was screaming at him from the inside. The fact that he was twice as tall and at least thrice as bulky as the duo was the only reassurance he had as he approached them. Now he loomed over the duo, his body of neither scales nor skin, but cracked stone, dwarfing them as he stared down from above, drawing the attention of various optical organs from patrons throughout the establishment. The taller human stepped forward and introduced himself.
"Hi, I'm Daniel,"
he said, then continued awkwardly.
"Excuse me, good sir, or lady, or genderless being, do you happen to know anything about a finder called Paul?"
The silence of the enormous Zorax didn't dissuade the other human from also introducing himself.
"Hello there, I'm Kyle,"
he said, waving hello, then went on to explain how they were in need of a finder for the sake of finding replacement parts for their broken ship. Zorax found the casual way the duo introduced themselves quite weird. What sort of creatures saw his imposing form and thought to request help right away? He crossed his arms and stared down at them to make sure they got the message. His serious face had never failed to deliver it before. Daniel scratched his head at Zorax's crossed arms and said,
"We don't have money to buy you a drink, but if you helped us, you'd sure get some good karma."
Kyle added,
"We could help you with anything. We could even work here tonight or trade for something. I also have a few gadgets in my pockets that you might like."
He pulled out a device that looked like a primitive hand-sized computer and even a little battery-powered flashlight that was probably worth nothing. Zorax felt his temper flare, not at the idea that he might trade information for payment, but at the insultingly low value of what they were offering. A primitive computing device and a pathetic light source? Did these creatures think he was some desperate scavenger who would accept their worthless trinkets? His rocky features hardened further as he contemplated the sheer audacity of their proposal. The insult was too much. Zorax slapped those pathetic items to the ground with a dismissive gesture, sending them clattering across the floor. But as he leaned forward to intimidate them properly, face to face with Kyle, something caught his attention. His huge nostrils flared wide as he drew in a deep breath, trying to identify the strange scent clinging to the human. The smell was unmistakable, yet impossible. He remembered the potency of that poison. How many had perished from it, accidentally or deliberately? The very thought that this smell might actually be visor poison was terrifying to him. He asked in a deep, rumbling voice,
"Why do you smell like visor poison, human?"
Kyle hesitated a bit and said,
"It's nothing. It must have stuck to my clothes when I embraced Riala."
Daniel added,
"It also might be that he's sweating it out since he drank a full glass of it."
Zorax's jaw dropped, but he hesitated to believe what he was hearing. He sniffed the air again, his nostrils flaring as he tried to process the impossible. Only when some deep instinct reminded him that they were likely not lying did his eyes widen with the realization. These humans were very, very weird, perhaps even completely insane. The giant Zorax took a step back from the two small humans and said,
"And I touched you."
He stared at his own hand, the one he had used to slap Kyle's devices to the ground, in what looked like horror. His shock was so complete that he stumbled backward, his massive rocky form losing balance as he crashed to the floor, causing a thunderous impact that shook the entire establishment. The sight of the fearsome bouncer sprawled helplessly drew stares and various sounds of surprise from every patron in the Night Mist Saloon. Kyle looked around at all the staring eyes, and Daniel placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. Seizing the moment, Daniel skillfully turned to face the crowded bar, addressing the mix of alien species now watching them intently.
Can anyone help us locate a finder called Paul?
He asked, his voice reaching across the room to the various creatures, some with multiple eyes, others with a single large one.
We got information that this was the place to look for him.
The unusual spectacle of their mighty bouncer sprawled on the floor had given them the perfect opportunity to broadcast their question to everyone present, and Daniel wasn't about to waste it. A bartender, a blue-scaled biped with a lean, serpentine body, called out from behind the bar,
"Paul the Finder, it's been over a month since he last came here."
Zorax tried to protest from his position on the floor, raising his massive hand toward the bartender.
Hey, you're giving information for free.
But another voice called out from somewhere in the crowd, cutting through his complaint.
"Paul doesn't like people searching for him."
Nods and their various equivalents rippled through the crowd as the different species seemed to reach an agreement that Paul didn't want to be found. The atmosphere grew tense as the patrons appeared, ready to close ranks against the strangers. Daniel and Kyle exchanged a look, and Daniel addressed the crowd again.
It's fine to tell us about Paul because we're humans too.
He said, his voice carrying across the room.
There's nothing wrong with facilitating fellow humans to meet in a time of need.
Zorax noticed from his position on the floor that their arguments were actually being effective. Whispers began circulating among the patrons, and he could sense the crowd's resistance wavering. For a moment, he realized with growing dismay that these strange creatures, who didn't even seem to understand their own strangeness, were about to get exactly what they wanted, and all at his expense. In that very moment, a beautiful being of energy parted the crowd as she approached from the VIP area. Her body was a mixture of flowing energy that sometimes appeared solid and sometimes looked like liquid starlight, gracefully moving toward the duo. Enera, a transcendent, the only being in the saloon who made Zorax's blood run cold, joined the scene as she sipped their most expensive drink. Her sweet voice, low as a whisper, reached Zorax as if she were speaking directly into his ears.
"You are about to help beings who came to this place drenched in Vizar poison,"
she said.
"Beings who are inconsiderate of your safety, and beings who might not have good intentions with the finder, called Paul."
The gazes of the patrons told Zorax that Enera's voice had not just reached him. Her whispered words had somehow carried to every being in the establishment. The crowd immediately took several steps back from the humans, creating a wide circle around them. Voices began murmuring throughout the room.
"Vizar poison!" "Contaminated. They could kill us all."
The fear was obvious as various species backed away, some covering their breathing apparatus. The humans quickly realized things had gone south and tried to defend themselves.
We're not touching anyone or anything.
Kyle protested, raising his hands. Daniel added desperately,
We didn't do anything wrong to you, lady. Why are you being such a bitch?
The fact that they had just called a transcendent that word sent shivers down Zorax's spine. These humans truly had no idea what they were dealing with. Enera's laughter seemed to come from everywhere at once, filling the saloon with an all-encompassing sound that made the very air hostile.
"Perhaps you should teach these humans some manners,"
she said, her voice filled with an unmistakable suggestion to the increasingly agitated crowd.
"I'll return to the VIP area. They're not worth my time."
With that, her form began to drift back through the parted crowd, leaving the chaos for everyone else to deal with. Kyle and Daniel exchanged a long look as the hostile crowd began to close in around them. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a pocket knife. Daniel reached for a nearby chair, gripping it firmly as he prepared for what was coming.
Well, looks like a bar fight came to us.
He said with grim resignation. Kyle sighed deeply, glancing around at the increasingly aggressive faces surrounding them.
This looked like such a friendly place when we walked in.
Zorax remained sprawled on the floor, his massive frame still reeling from the shock of everything that had just transpired. From the moment these two creatures had walked into the Night Mist Saloon, nothing had made sense. They had approached him, a being whose very presence sent most species scurrying for cover, like old friends asking for directions. The poison incident should have been the end of it. Vizar poison was legendary for its lethality, yet here stood a human who not only survived contact with it, but claimed they had embraced one of those deadly beings and consumed their toxin like it was some exotic beverage. They had even managed to draw the attention of Anera, a transcendent being who typically regarded lesser species with the same interest she might show a grain of sand. Yet somehow these humans had not only captured her notice, but had earned her direct intervention. As the sounds of the impending fight began to escalate around him, Zorax came to a chilling realization. The most terrifying thing about humans wasn't their apparent immunity to things that should kill them, or even their complete lack of proper fear. A glance at the duo, and he confirmed it again. The most terrifying thing about humans was that they seemed to think they were normal.
Thank you for watching the 5th chapter of the Finders series. You can find the link to the next chapter in the video description. You can also like the video and subscribe to increase your chances of being notified whenever we post a new one. Hiss.